When I entered government service, I had two options, luckily. I could have continued in the diplomatic service of my country, to which I belonged at that time, and had the option also of joining the administrative service, which is home service. And this was quite a problem. Friends of mine, some advised, why not be a diplomat? Soon you'll be an ambassador. And others said, no, stay at home. That will be much better. And that was a dilemma. So what did I do? Can you guess? You can. Well, I turned to my wife. And she decided, she said, I have no doubt at all, and this decision was taken in a minute. She said, I have no doubt at all, we should stay at home. We have a lot of work to do within the country. The country had gained independence very recently. And she said, let's stay here, let's work, let's serve our country. And because then I joined the administrative service, a few years later, I was able to join the Secretariat of Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri and to work for him. I think she had seen that from the very beginning, that someday something like that would happen. But even then, when he became Prime Minister, I had known him a little, I had worked for him for some time. I was hesitating, but she said, you should go to the new Prime Minister. He knows you, he trusts you. You must go and work for him. Now, I am a civil servant, or I'm a retired civil servant now. I was a civil servant. And civil servants are trained people, trained to follow certain code. Now, according to that code, no civil servant himself goes to Prime Minister and says, I want to offer my services to you. So I explained this to my wife. She said, all right, wait a minute and something will happen. And something happened the next week. Because a meeting was convened by the government of India in New Delhi, and I was invited to attend that meeting. And I went there, and Mr. Shastri had been taken ill at that time, and it was an arrangement between him and me that whenever I came to Delhi, I would see him. In that situation, I felt that I was bound. I had to, in keeping with our arrangement, I had just to go and see him at least. So I went to his house, and I was summoned in. And the doctors, people who were there, advised me to stay for no more than a minute because he was not too well. So within a minute of that, my arrival, I got up to leave. And he looked around, he asked everyone else to go out to the room and asked me to stay back. And then he said, why don't you come and join me? Now, she had known that, I think. And so that's how it was that I went to join him and to work for him. He had very great regard and very great respect for your mother. I think he recognized the divinity in her, but he consulted her whenever we went to his house for dinner or for functions. He would talk to her about religion, about politics, about economics. And eventually, he wanted to do something which, where he probably, that was the only thing where he did not succeed. He wanted her to join politics. And she was embarrassed, but she said, no, I have something else to do. And that something else has brought about what I see now before my eyes, this beautiful world. So that's how we were working together. And I worked with him for the duration of his prime ministership. I was with him till the very last day of his life. I knew him very well. I worked very closely with him. The biography that I have written explains or states my perception of Mr. Shastri as he was, objectively. It's not a subjective book, but a very objective book. But very briefly, I'll tell you that he was born in a poor family. He found it very hard to complete his education. And his father died when he was barely 18 months old. Now, in India, there's no social security. You can imagine what happens to a child who loses his father. The mother was there, but mother was not an earning member. And they had to depend upon relations, some good, some bad, some kind, some unkind. It was a very hard life. And this child grows up in that atmosphere. And yet, at a very young age, he manifests what one may call a moral will. I'll give you one example, I won't take too much time. Once, when he was 6 years old, he was out on a stroll with his maternal uncle who was 10 years old, 2 children. And they were by the side of a river in their hometown when they saw an old man coming with the basket on his head. And Lal Bahadur Shastri, or Lal Bahadur as he was, he asked him, "What have you got there?" So the man said, "I've got wonderful mangoes, very delicious." And then he took down the basket, gave him and his uncle 1 mango each to taste. And the mangoes were delicious. Between the two of them, they could manage only 2 annas, which is about 1% of your dollar or something like that. And they said, "Can you sell some mangoes to us?" He said, "I'm very anxious to sell," that man said. And although normally I would sell 100 for 2 annas, I'll sell you 100 for just half of that, 1 anna, because it's evening. I want to sell, I want to get some money. So this little boy said, "Okay, go ahead." He gave him an anna for 100, and that man began to count mangoes as he was giving. And then when he came to 50, this little boy said, "Now stop." The man didn't understand. He said, "You have paid me for 100, why are you stopping me at 50? He says, 50 will be quite enough for us. We don't need another 50. The man said, "But what about the money?" He said, "Oh, keep the money is yours." And so he didn't understand, he fumbled, and then he went away. And as soon as he was gone, his maternal uncle said, "You are a very stupid person. We paid for 100 and you have taken only 50. Why?" So he says, Mama is maternal uncle. He says, this poor man was in distress, he was in trouble. Didn't he say he has to sell? Now, we shouldn't take advantage of that. And 50 is quite enough for us. Now, can you imagine a child of 6 years talking of ethics? And there were several other examples. So this little child was born, I say, with an innate moral will that manifested itself on this occasion and later on. I'll tell you one more incident. When he was 16 years of age, he was about to complete the first level of education, which is in India called high school education. In 3 months' time, in 1921 January, in 3 months' time, he would have taken the final examination, which he would have passed. And if he had passed that, he would have become eligible to get a job. And everyone in the family, his relations, they're all waiting for that to happen. But he was in financial distress. His mother was in distress. His little sisters were in distress. And something happens at that time which put him to the greatest test of his life. Mahatma Gandhi arrived in Banaras where he was staying, and he came to launch a non-cooperation movement with the British in India for gaining independence. Gandhiji addressed a meeting where Lal Bahadur Shastri was present, and Gandhiji said, "We are launching this movement, we need your cooperation, we need your support. Every Indian has the duty now to do his whatever little he can. And therefore I ask all of you, young boys and girls of 16 years age and over, if you are studying in a government-aided institution, to just leave that institution as a protest, as a symbol of non-cooperation." He was just 16, he had turned 16, entered 17th year. And he heard that message. And he had become by that time involved in the national movement through studies. But there was a conflict because the person who was presiding at the meeting, another important leader, he said, Gandhiji said, "You have to do this even if you have to disobey your parents." Now this chairman of the meeting said, "I agree with everything except one. Don't you disobey your parents. Now here, Lal Bahadur was faced with a very big dilemma. Gandhiji saying, leave the school. Another very elderly person saying, don't leave, your parents said no. So he went home. And his relations have heard his story. And he said, I want to join, but I'm not sure. They said, don't be mad. You are going to pass the exam in 3 months' time. Pass it. Then you'll get a job. You have to look after your mother. Don't you think you have a responsibility to your mother? And he said, yes, I have. Anyway, then he quietly went to his mother, and that's the main point of his life. Explained his predicament to his mother, and the mother said, son, think very deeply. Think of what is right and what is wrong. Decide what you think is right and stick to that. Don't worry about me. I'll take care of myself. Do exactly what you think to be right. And that became the principle of his life. Deep thinking and right decision. The next day he left the school, joined the national movement, and then for 45 years, 46 years, he worked for the country. He was imprisoned, went to jail as a freedom fighter. Eventually he rose from the level of a village level worker to Prime Minister of India. But you may find it hard to believe in the world of today that never did he chase power. Never did he ask for any appointment. Everything came to him. He didn't have to ask for it. Never did he deviate from truth. And I said so in my book. If it was not true, people would have shouted at me by now. Never did he deviate from truth. Never did he deviate from integrity. Complete, total integrity. His life was so pure that people today would find it very hard to believe that a man like that ever existed. When he died, he always lived within his means. His salary was small, he lived within that life of poverty. But when he died, he left no home, no money, nothing but a pure sheet of life. Now that is the message of his life, that in politics also it is possible for people to be honest. But you know, these days people believe that in politics you cannot be honest. You have to resort to means which are not so good in order to succeed in life. His life demonstrates that you can be dharmic, firmly dharmic, and still succeed, provided you are truly wedded to a pure life. Now I felt that that was a message which deserved to be promoted. And here again, I come back to my wife. Please forgive me for coming back to her. I always come back to her from time to time. She said, it's a good message, but what will you do about it? Then she said, why don't you write a book? So I said, yes. I thought of it even earlier, but I was wavering. So she said, no, you must write a book. And whatever help she can give, she would. She had given tremendous help. I have received enormous help from Sahaj Yogis in India, in UK, in America. And I want to express my gratitude through you to them. I think I see one of them sitting right in front of me, so I can name him, Mr. Ian Paradine. But there are so many others, so many. Derek Lee, Guy Bevan, and Paul Ellis. I can go on naming, they have all been named in the book. But I do want to tell you that without her enormous backing and support, and without the help of Sahaj Yogis, this book could never have been written. It has now been written. It has been written solely for one purpose, namely to promote the message of Dharma in India. Now when I came to Australia,